Well, welcome to the jail site. This is where the Concord jail used to be, and today it's very difficult to find this little plaque, but this has a very special place. Henry David Thoreau lived at Walden Pond, as we know, for 2 years, 2 months and 2 days. There've been a lot of debates and arguments about whether he was a hermit and, he was a bit of a hypocrite because he used to come home and his mom used to feed him and do the laundry. Well, besides that, he did actually live at the pond and he did do a lot of things on the water. And so I have utmost respect, and I've actually become really a big fan of Henry David Thoreau. He actually was David Henry Thoreau, but he chose to be called Henry David Thoreau. So one day while he was living at the pond, he came into town to do his usual business, and that day to have his shoes fixed. And while he was walking, he bumped into Sam Staples, the jailer. And Sam said to him, "Henry, you have not paid your taxes, your poll taxes." And Henry said, "Yes, I know, and I'm not going to." And Sam Staples said, "You have to pay your taxes, or else I'm taking you to jail." So Henry said, "Fine, take me to jail." And he actually volunteered, offered, and he came, and he spent a night on the site, which would have been the jail. He was upstairs, and there's a little tale we love to tell, which I do it with a little bit of a wink, because it's just a lovely story. He was upstairs, and he was looking out from the window, and who walked past but Waldo Emerson. And Waldo Emerson said to him, "Henry, whatever are you doing up there in the jail?" And Henry looked down and said to Waldo Emerson, "No, what are you doing down there? In other words, you should be with me. You should be supporting, and you should be on the side of the whole anti-slavery and all these great missions that these authors were on." So that's just a little story we love to tell. It could have been true, it could have happened. He spent the night in jail, and whilst he was sleeping, an old lady came from that direction of the inn. So the lady walked across the grass, or whatever was here at that time, and she came to the jail, and she approached Sam Staples and said she would like to pay the fine to get Henry out of jail. And that is why we believe it was his Aunt Maria, because Aunt Maria lived over there where the inn now is, but she lived in the boarding house next to it. And you can imagine, she was probably so embarrassed about this nephew of hers who was always doing weird and strange and wonderful things, like living at the pond, and now he's in jail. But the jailer said to Aunt Maria, who we think was the person, "You can pay the fine, thank you very much, but he's going to spend the night here. He has to know what he did wrong." So the next morning, Henry woke up, and Sam Staples said to him, "Okay, Henry, out, you can go." He said, "No, I haven't paid my fine." He said, "Somebody paid for it in the night." Apparently, Henry was appalled. He was very upset because he wanted to protest. He wanted to make his point known. And that was that the taxes paid for the wars which kept slavery alive in America. And he did not want to support slavery. Anyway, he was duly kicked out of the jail and he had to leave. But out of that one night spent in jail, Henry wrote an essay which later became known as Civil Disobedience. And I'm going to read, it's rather faint, but we can try and read it together. It says, "Henry David Thoreau was imprisoned for one night in a jail on this site, July 1846, for refusing to recognize the right of the state to collect taxes from him in support of slavery, an episode made famous in his essay, Civil Disobedience. Civil disobedience was used by Martin Luther King and Gandhi, the likes, and the other famous people used the subject of this essay for their causes. So thank you for joining us here today at the jail site.